And now, here's your host of Shaping Success, Wes Tankersley.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Shaping Success Treasure Valley. This is the first edition of the Treasure Valley edition. I'm having a good friend of mine on here shortly. Wanted to say thank you for hanging out with us. This show is brought to you by Shade Bros. If you want to get some window coverings or are looking to do a little remodeling or anything like that, please give me a call at 208-99-SHADE and I will get you scheduled to come in. Our first guest for Shaping Success Treasure Valley is a friend of mine for quite a few years. We've been having lunch together. We met as he's a realtor with Relocate 208. He was working for Brighton at the time, and it was very, very cool to meet Chris and to get to interact with him and talk to him. And so now we're going to talk about Chris. So Chris Flexhaug is a good friend of mine. Chris, thanks for taking the time to hang out with me.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Wes. This is amazing. I love it.
You know, one of the things that I like about you is you're always so positive, and it is like what you see is what you get. When I talk to you, when I interact with you, you are the same person away from the customer that you are with the customer. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into real estate and what you did before that and those types of things?
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that, by the way, and thank you for having me on your first ever show. That's awesome. Just a little backstory of my life, I guess you could say. I grew up north of Seattle, Washington on Camano Island. Used to be a logger, commercial fisherman, farmer. I've done all kinds of interesting things. And then I moved to Los Angeles and lived there probably about 20 years. I did some acting, stand-up comedy, some modeling, if you can believe that. And then I moved here about 6 years ago with no job and no experience in real estate at all. I got here, and actually, the realtor that helped sell my home in California, it kind of inspired me by doing an awesome job. Then, as I got here, my current broker was actually my real estate agent, and she and one of her colleagues again did such a great job and inspired me. And I thought, wow, this would be a great thing to help people. I love helping people. I got into it, and I sort of a connection. Someone knew the director of sales at Brighton, a lender friend of mine, and so started working for them and loved it. Worked there a few years, and then sort of, made a move to go out on my own. And the thing that's awesome about being out on my own, it was great working for the builder. But now I can do so much more for people. With the builder, you could sell their homes. So if someone came to me and they needed me to sell their home, I wasn't really able to do that. I could refer that to someone else, but now I can sell someone's home, help them get a brand new home. So I feel like my number one job is always what's in the best interests of the client.
Right.
And I feel like I just have so much more possibility for helping people. And I love what you said earlier. I am who I am. I couldn't be different if I wanted to. And genuine as day as the as a I don't know what I was going to say there. I'm as genuine as a day is long. All right, that
Yeah.
took a minute. But yeah, I just love helping people, and real estate could be a pretty challenging situation, right? It's the number one biggest transaction, biggest purchase,
Right.
but I think it's really important to have communication, number one, and then also to understand I'm here to guide. I'm not the boss. So I give all the information to help guide them in the right direction. But I think it's interesting. Some people may think of themselves as the boss. I'm not the boss here. So it's a big difference. And I think that communication and honesty really do help out a lot.
Right.
And if you love what you do, you're not really working. And if I can make the transaction fun, that's a huge win because I want it to be fun at the end of the day. It seems kind of like a silly thing to say, but um, yeah, I think it is fun and I enjoy what I do. And right now, the broker that I work for, right, she was my realtor. So it's kind of, I've come full circle, which is kind of cool.
Tell us a little bit about working for a builder versus doing it on your own, because I think that there's kind of one of the things that I really was inspired by was the fact that working for a builder is one of those things that like you feel comfortable with, right? Like there's always going to be something for sale. And then you have to go out on your own and try and figure out, well, how am I going to make sure that this still happens? Because now this is my deal. I don't have someone providing me with the thing to sell, which is kind of a guaranteed thing that you had with Brighton, but you don't have anymore. Tell us a little bit about that and kind of being scared and what it took and that type of thing.
Yeah, so that's a great question. When you work for a builder, I don't want to say it's easy, but maybe it's easier because such a big part of real estate is marketing. Well, that's all taken care of, right? Just as you said, I have the product, the homes to sell. I have this department that's their their own marketing department, so they take care of all of that. And so it's a matter of, just showing up to work, helping people. But yeah, the business just comes to you. So it is very different as you take that step out into, I call it the real world, but it's maybe not the real world of real estate. It's very different because now you have to build a business. And I think, again, such a fortunate situation for me working for the builder was I managed a few different communities, but mainly their 55 plus community. And those people that I helped, for a few years became like family and they
Right.
are so loyal to me. So although I left Brighton, I was still there for them and still in touch with many people. So I'm pretty fortunate and blessed that I have a much larger base of people as I left the builder than others might have. So my story is a little different than others. Um, but yeah, it is a bit of I mean, it could be scary for people. I'm very different in my mind. I'm not the kind of guy that really works out of being scared. I sort of have faith that I just realize it's going to work out. And I'm an ultimate optimist, so in my mind, everything's working out. Whether it does or doesn't, only time will tell. But yeah, it is a safer place to be at a builder. And going out on your own is very different, but I urge people, take the step,
Yeah.
build your business. And again, if you love what you do, then it feels like business just comes your way. And most of my business is repeat business, referral, or word of mouth. And I do a little bit of marketing. I'm not sure if that does much or not. But yeah, I feel grateful and blessed that I worked for the builder and that now I'm out on my own and I'm having a great time. So yeah, love that question.
Well, when you talked about what you had done, there was a couple things that you said: farmer, lumberjack, actor, all these things that you did. At what point in your life did you realize that like taking a risk, because that's really what it is, right? You're taking this risk, even though you believe in yourself. Have you always had that thought process? Because like I myself, I always knew that I could do it, but it took a while for me to gain that confidence to know that no matter what I do, I'm going to do the best I can. It wasn't, maybe 6 or 7 years ago when I realized that the risk was definitely worth the reward. How long have you had that thought process in your mindset?
Yeah, I love that. That's a great question too. I think this is just how I was born. I couldn't be different if I wanted to. And I think that goes back to being genuine, right?
Hmm.
Um, I grew up not knowing that I couldn't do something. So I failed many times in my life. I'll continue to fail, but the real failure is not trying,
Right.
right? No one's ever going to say, gee, I did that and I failed. Really what's going to happen, someone's not going to try, and later in life they're going to be, gee, I wish I had tried. I'd rather know that I failed and tried. And quite frankly, I'm just going to keep trying until I do succeed.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a mindset. And, I guess we're just all different people, but maybe it's just some certain level of confidence. Maybe that's what it is. I'm not sure. But again, I grew up this way, just thinking I could do things. And I've just always been that person that tries. Even moving to California, it's kind of a sort of a risk, right? I moved
Yeah.
down there to actor. Quite frankly, wouldn't say it worked out. But hey, I met my wife there, had two lovely children. So it's a win all day long,
Yeah.
right?
Where do you think that you got that from? I mean, was it something that your parents encouraged you to just be trying and not being willing to fail? Did you play sports? Did you have any activities that like you were just, hey, I'm going to do this because because for me it was sports. That was something that was like, no matter what, baseball is one of my favorite sports. I wasn't very good at it, but I would go up there and I would fail and I'd enjoy it and I'd be all right with it because I knew that it was going to make me get back up there and do it again every single at bat. Where did that come from for you?
Yeah, I think all of the above. So I did play a lot of sports. I was terrible at almost everything I played, but I loved it. And
Yep.
I loved the team atmosphere of, helping one another out. But I really think it probably goes deeper. And I think it's a lot to do with my parents. Although my parents were divorced when I was young, some might say, oh, gee, divorce, that must have been difficult. I never knew any difference. And
Mhm.
again, it goes back to being that ultimate optimist. I think it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me that my parents were apart because it changed my life. And I think thankfully it changed it for a better. But yeah, I think that's just how I was born. My parents were very supportive. Whatever I did, it was always, oh, yay. Everything, doing the acting was so funny. A lot of times I was an extra, like way
Right.
deep in the background. They're like, oh, we saw you. And I'm like, oh, I was like, okay, yeah. But yeah, I think it's having super positive, really loving, caring people as parents really is such a big part of who I am. And, you're a parent, I'm a parent. I think if there's one thing we could do, I know this is going off track, but for our children, it's just love them. It sounds so simplistic, but just being there and supporting them, allowing them to make their mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes.
Right.
We have made mistakes and we'll continue. And I think that's part of success, right? It's just keep failing until you succeed.
Yep.
That's sort of how I see it. Yeah. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I met with someone the other day that, one of the great things about this job that I have, with my own business and being able to meet people like you is I get to network with a lot of people. And I had posted something on one of my socials the other day that talked about failing forward. And I think that that's the biggest thing that most people think about as a failure, as a setback. But if you can think of it as something that's going to propel you to get to that ultimate goal that you're looking for, it's going to be very rewarding in the end, knowing that you had to work just a little bit harder to make that happen. I mean, that's a crazy way to think about it, but so many people are lost on that.
I agree 100%. As a young kid, ever since I was in the fifth grade, I split firewood to earn money. And I did that for years and years, well into college years to earn money. And I remember after a few years in those younger years, it took years, but I ended up buying myself a motorcycle. And there was something to that I did it, right? No one gave that to me. I earned it. And I just think, yeah, succeeding I love what you said because that perfectly states it. And, at the end of the day, it's all those failures, if you want to call it failure. I don't even call it failure because I
Right.
just feel like you're working in the right direction and it's just all part of your journey. But yeah, I think it's really important when you work hard and then you have something to show for it. It's so much more meaningful, right? I mean, so many kids these days, just everything's given to them. And we
Right.
as parents want to give our children more than we had, but we have to find that balancing line, right? You give them too much, they don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so it's great to give them things, but it's also great to teach them the value of what it is that they're getting. And my kids, they already are very young and they already have little businesses. Well, one was called the weed business. We changed that to weeding business. They were picking weeds
Yeah.
for the neighbors, and they have a dog walking business. And my kids are 10 and a half and 13 and a half, and they've been doing that for a couple of years now. They're not doing it all the time, but it's so cute to see that drive to, they want to earn money, right?
Yep.
And they appreciate when they have something that they purchased because of their hard work. And so I think, for us as adults, it's the same thing. Working hard. I mean, you have a new business, right? You're gonna succeed. I'm sure of it, because that's just who you are as a person. It's almost as if failure is not even a possibility. You're
Yep.
just gonna get it done. And I think that's the mindset that people have. If you're doing well, it's in your mind. You're gonna do well. It's just a matter of time and how do you get there,
Yep.
right? So that's
Yeah,
how
and
I see it.
that's an amazing thing. And I want to talk about the importance of networking because I think that that's such a big thing for both of us. A couple years ago, I reached out to
Yes.
you and we sat down and we had lunch and we just started talking about this stuff. And I knew you. You referred me a couple times just because by word of mouth, you knew who I was, but it wasn't the relationship that we had wasn't personal like it is now. And I'm so thankful that I have people like you that I've been networking with, that I'm talking to, that believe in me so much because you're a big part of why I jumped off and did it on my own because you pushed me to do it. You wanted me to do it. You said, you'll do great. And I knew I would, but it's always nice to have that little pat on the back. What advice would you give someone who, besides me, you're obviously like, just do it, what would you give someone who's thinking about maybe they're working for the builder or maybe they're working like at a convenience store or doing something like that? What would you tell them if they know they can do it? How are you going to get there? What should they do?
Yeah, and I love it that we kind of reconnected, right? A couple of
Yeah.
years ago, we both knew each other, but as time goes by, we're all busy doing our own thing. I love that you're the one who created that reconnection, and thank you because I think that was such a great. It's a good reminder for all of us. To continue to keep those relationships, right? And it is a two-way story, right? It's for you, it's for me. It takes two of us to keep it alive, but you were the one who reached out to get that going again. I really appreciate that. And in your case, I mean, I just knew you could do it, right? And I know you could do it, right? But sometimes it's just difficult to take that first step.
Right.
This is a thing I've seen written many times in different places, and different ideas about it, but it's like it's always the right time. Some people are like, well, I got to do this, I got to do
Mhm.
that. No, if you have it in your mind that this is your next step, just go for it, right? And if you know you're going for it, do the work, right? Do some research, figure out how you need to get there. And but that being said, for me in my journey, I got to a point where I just saw that it was time for me to sort of make a change. And I loved where I was at. Brighton was a phenomenal builder. They still are. And I still often sell their homes and I have great relationships there. But it was time for me to be my own boss and do my own thing and be more there for people, I would say. um, but yeah, I think the way to get there is just go.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of simplistic and almost silly in a way, but it's just like take the step, to trust yourself, right? And it's all about having the confidence in yourself. What's the worst that could happen? It doesn't work out. You'll find another job, you'll find another career. There are plenty of opportunities out there, but I think if you just take that first step, that's like the biggest that's the biggest number one thing you can do that's going to get you to where you want to be. And then, as you as an example, so you took that big step, right? And it's not easy, but it is nice to surround yourself with positive people that
Yeah.
believe in you. Because not as if you don't believe in yourself, because I know you do,
Mhm.
but having more people that also believe in you, it just gives you that little extra push, right? To
Yep.
get out there and do it. And again, it goes back to that. No one's going to look back and say, "Gosh, I that's too bad I failed so many times." It's looking back and understanding they didn't take that risk, right? And what a great thing for your family. What a great thing for your children to see dad making that, right? Making that leap. That encourages them. And that's a thing we don't always think about, right?
Yeah.
We have some people that are watching every move we make. They're called our
Mhm.
family,
Yep.
right? And it's like our wives when they see us, taking that step. It's all about support, right? And obviously, you have a supportive wife, you have supportive family and children, and so there's so much to it. It's a village, right? I
Mhm.
think that's important too to think about.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, that's one of the big things that, without our significant others, there's no way that this would be possible because they have to be willing to stand behind you and know that what you're doing right. May not be easy. It's one of those things where, you know, it's different when you're getting a paycheck every single 2 weeks or whenever you get paid than when you're like, okay, are we good to pay ourselves this time? Like that's kind of the thing that it becomes, and that's how it becomes a little bit difficult. But in reality, they know that you're doing the work and they're trying to help you and they're being supportive, and without them, you wouldn't have what you have. It's kind of crazy.
Yep.
It's pretty amazing.
Yep.
So that growth mindset, and that's basically what you're describing, is that the fact that you're never done learning and you're always trying to find a new way to skin a cat, I guess is the way that I would put it. What do you do to inspire yourself when because I think that's probably one of the hardest parts is everyone looks at positive people looking for inspiration and where they get it from, and they need to find that one thing. Like I read books I read books with my ears is what I say. I listen to a lot of audible books, podcasts, people who are kind of in that same area to help stimulate me. What is it that helps you to continue to keep pushing forward?
Yeah. Oh, wow. So I'm not like a huge reader and I don't skin cats. I'll make that clear. No cats were hurt in the filming of this. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's an interesting question. So I guess I'm pretty different in that regard than other people. Um, I'm not really big into reading books. I'm not really big into listening to others. Not as if I don't, because that might
Yeah.
sound like, oh, this guy's a know it all. Yeah, definitely not a know it all. It's just in me to push myself.
Mhm.
So I just always want to do better. It's, it, yeah, it's not other people. And maybe it is something to do with my family. I want to create a better life for them. And at the end of the day, most of what we do as people is to create a better life for our family and our loved ones. And yeah, so I think, again, it sounds almost, I don't know. I wish I had a better answer, like something more profound, but it's just, I think it's just in me that I'm not actually that kind of person that's, how some people are very competitive.
Mhm.
I'm not competitive. I don't think much at all. It's just I want to be a better version of me. I'm not in competition of top real estate agents or other people in the world. I'm in competition with myself. How can I be better each and every day? And really it goes down to, if you love helping people, the more I'm able to help people, the I guess the better it makes me feel. So some people think, oh wow, you sold a lot of homes. I don't see it as that. I see it as I built a lot of relationships and I was able to help a lot of people. So it's very, very different. And I think if you're doing things because you just love what you do and you love people, often you may find yourself doing well. Um, but yeah, I guess I'm just here to, push myself, and
Yeah.
for no other reason than I just want to be a better person. And I think we can all be better, right? It doesn't matter how great you're doing or how poorly you're doing. We can always just do a little better, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I believe that myself. It's that competition that you have. Like I've always had that. It's always in the back of my mind that I want to be better for myself. So I want to beat whatever that is. If I did $1 million in sales last year, I want to do 1.1 million. I want to do 1.5 million. I want to do like a little bit more every single year than what I did. That's kind of where my first goal is. And sometimes you get other people, and this is the hard part is you get other people. Well, so and so did this, and so did that, and that's hard because I don't want to be compared to anyone else. I just want to be compared to myself. You can do that comparison in the background, do whatever you want, but if I'm not doing my job, just tell me and I'll figure it out. So I think
I agree.
that's a tough one to follow though, because a lot of times when it's the outside noise that brings that in, right? Like you're doing everything you possibly can, and knowing that is a great equalizer, because if you do everything you're supposed to be, if for you, like if you're a good person, if you're that type of person who is continuing just to work hard every single day and not trying to, screw over your clients or, just make a quick buck, you're going to be successful anyway, because people are going to come to you. And I think that's one of the big things that I like about you is when someone meets you or when I'm around you, like your clients are they love you. They think that you're great because you're not there to be that skeezy salesman at the car lot, right? That's I'm here to make a fast buck. You're going to do the thing that is best for your customer. You're going to, it may not be what you want. It may not be what is the worst thing that, you know what I'm saying? Like it may not be a bad thing for them, but it's going to be something that's going to help them no matter what. And you're willing to, hey, this house is too much. We'll go find you one a little bit cheaper. Hey, this one doesn't have what you want. Instead of just being there like, let's get this done. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. And that's what makes a good salesperson, because in the end of the day, that's what you are, but you're developing a partnership with your client so that they can develop that trust and get that repeat business, get that referral business, because people trust in you and know that you're doing the best you can.
Yes, I agree that being honest and giving the information, it goes back to my number one job is whatever's their best interest, not mine. So I point out things all the time just so they're aware. If they don't get the home, that's okay. If they do get the home, that's fine. But I want them to know, hey, there's this little thing over here you may be concerned about, or you may not, right? But if you don't bring it up and you're just trying to quickly sell a home, you're not building a relationship with people, and you're not building that trust. Trust is probably the most important thing, right? There are other
Yep.
things important, but if you're not trusted, no one's working with you. So it is absolutely important to do the right thing all the time. And if you're doing the right thing, again, homes are going to sell, and those people are going to be so grateful because you were there for them. And I see real estate sometimes, it might sound funny, but I see it as almost like we're counselors,
Yep.
because there's so much going on. And a lot of the job is actually just listening, and understanding, being inquisitive, asking the questions. I think for a while there during COVID, it was so crazy busy. A lot of realtors were just order takers. Oh, okay, you want this, you want that, great, let's get it. But we're in a market now where you have to really be aware of what's going on, and you have to know exactly what it is that is important to your client, and you have to guide them in the right direction. And one of the things, and maybe it's working with a lot of 55 plus, the best thing that someone could say to me is thank you for your time. Because you know the, some people are so in a rush. I don't care how busy I am, I'm there for the people however long they need me. Now I might have multiple appointments going on, so I may have to let them know, hey, let's touch base later today. I have another appointment coming up, and people are very respectful of that. But that being said, as long as they need, I'm here for them. And I think that's really important. It really shows people that you care when you're trying to, some people are trying to push it along. It's like, oh, that doesn't feel good. I've been in those situations where it's like you can feel they're just trying to get rid of you.
Right.
That's not a great feeling. I think having patience and allowing people the time to do whatever they need to do is super, super important. And I think if more people did that, um, they would probably end up doing better, not just in business, but in life, right? Give people the time and then they make their best decision, right? As
Yep.
opposed to making a poor choice. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's that mentality that I was talking about. Like I said, the skeezy car salesman. Like I mean, that's kind of the way that they are. Like it's no, buy this now. Here's this. Like it's
Yeah.
I sit down at every time I sit down to buy a car at a car dealership, and I just get that same feeling. It's like only one car salesman didn't push me into doing anything, and he no longer works. He is retired, so kind of bummer. But
Aw.
that's the thing. It's like you have to be willing to listen to your clients. I think that's one of the great things. Like going back to in the window covering business, going back to the same client like 3 times to their house is you kind of like, oh, not again, not again. But like on the same token, you sit there and you go, they had you back. You have that benefit of going back. They just aren't sure. And what can you
Right.
do this time to educate your customer, educate your client, make sure that they have all the knowledge that they need in order to make an informed decision and hopefully in the end buy. And so, yeah, it's just a great thing to have the patience, have the kindness to treat them that way and get them taken care of.
I love it. So, how do you feel? Because you're pretty early on with a brand new business. What do you see as your challenges? Because that's good for other business owners as well, right? You're the perfect example of
Yeah.
you just made a giant step in the right direction. What are your obstacles at this point, or what could you do differently? You think?
I think the biggest thing that I have an issue with is marketing. I think that that's probably the toughest thing. We've done very well, for the
Yeah.
last 2.5 months that we've been in business. We've done very well. We've got a lot of stuff going on. But my previous company, there was a lot of interior stuff, and my partner is an exterior, king. I mean, he designed that exterior program, and he knows what he's doing. And a lot of people right now, this is the time for exterior shades, and typically, you know the interior stuff outruns the exterior stuff. But right now it's kind of the other way around. And we get a lot of exterior leads and not as many interior. So I think that's the biggest thing is trying to figure that out. What's the best way to market things? And, and what I've found is interacting with people like you, like with a realtor, with builders builders aren't as good as the realtors because the realtor is kind of the end result. They're the person who goes in and they talk to the customer every single day. And then when they're done, and if they remember like you do, which I'm greatly appreciative, hey, you are going to need some window coverings. You don't have any in there. Give this guy a call. And that's a great thing. Like the majority of the business that I've got from the interior stuff is repeat business, realtor referrals, people that I personally know who are referring me, which it'll grow and it's going to, but just trying to find that way to reach more people is kind of always the more difficult thing. And I think that networking is a great way to do that. I think that talking to people one-on-one and then finding that thing of value that they need. And a lot of times what's really cool about realtors is it's more about you're just taking care of their client and making sure that they get the best thing that they want because they want repeat business as well. And so you're just creating a good experience for them.
Yeah, I think that what I get out of that is it's a lot of marketing. It's a lot of getting people to know you're here now, right? You were
Right.
in a different place, you're in the same business, but that's also an interesting thing because I'll tell you when I think of your business, Shade Bros, right? That that makes me think outside, which
Mhm.
is an interesting thing, right? Because but most people will know if it's anything to do with window coverings, it's often going to be in and out.
Right.
Um, but yeah, that's interesting that you're getting a lot of outside shades, but it may be timing of the year, right?
Yeah.
Because it is getting so hot out.
Hmm.
That's people are like, wow, we gotta be protected from the sun. So that's interesting. But Yeah, it's a lot to do with marketing, and I think it is a lot to do just talking to people. And I think realtors are one of the best people for you to partner with because just what you said, builders are great, but they kind of do things a little differently. The realtor is just there. They're always there with
Yeah.
their client. And if they understand new home builds, they're going to know that there's a certain time frame where, okay, windows are in, right, sheetrock's in, trims in. This would be a great time to start getting those set
Yeah.
up. And another thing to know, it's lead time, right? It could be a few weeks, it could be 4 weeks, it could be 6 weeks. You want it to be the right timing. If you're an agent, you want that to work out for your people, that they're moving in, and then days later they're getting those shades, or the next day.
Right.
It's really important to find that timing, right? So it'll, I'm sure it's just going to get better and better, and I am confident you are going to do very well. So I know it.
Yep.
I know it.
And I'm excited to work with people like you. I think that, it's just one of those things that those relationships that you build, those customers that remember you, those, having a positive influence on other people is a great way to do that. And I feel that you definitely have that. And I appreciate your friendship and your help over the years.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate your friendship. And another thing I'll tell you, because you're still in the same business, but now you have your own company. That means a lot to people that you made that step and to start your own company. So I think a lot of people are going to have, a new level of respect for you and a new level of gratitude. So I'm excited to see where things go for you. It's up.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, Chris. I appreciate you taking the time to be my first guest on this new Shaping Success Treasure Valley. It's been awesome to talk with you. If people want to find you, if they want to use you as a realtor, where is the best place to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I love that question. So they can find me anywhere online. They could they can call me. My cell phone is 208-760-9880. But again, I'm all over social media. You could go to chrisflexhaug.com. You can find me there. And yeah, I'm the kind of guy you can reach out to me anytime. I'm available 24/7. If it's the middle of the night, I may call if I'm up. But thank you for having me on the show. I'm excited for both of us.
Yep, we'll have to get together for lunch again soon, Chris. Thank you very much. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thanks for hanging out for this edition of Shaping Success Treasure Valley. We appreciate Chris and all he's done. I'll put all his information in the show notes, and we will have a lot more guests coming up. Really excited to get this going. Until next time, I challenge you to find the shape of your success.